Singapore saw animal cruelty and welfare cases hit a 12-year high in 2024. For more on this worrying trend, we have in the studio the Executive Director of the Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals, Ms. Aarthi Sankar. Thanks for coming in, Ms.
Thank you for having me.
No. Okay, 961 cases logged last year. That's a 12-year high. The year before that, just to give this context, was 915, so it's 2023. And these figures from 2022, we've got, so the big jump, 500 and 915 to this year's 12-year high. What does that suggest to you?
I do think it is cause for concern given the fact that, we have dedicated authorities in Singapore looking into animal welfare. It's not just about the 900 over cases, but there were 2,190 animals who were subject to some form of cruelty or abuse in the last year. And I think, they are deserving of our care and our protection. So that's something that's quite worrying for us to see as well. A large number of these cases were cases of neglect, more than 70% of them, in fact. And that also means that it is pet owners who have, in some way or another, subjected to the animals to some level of neglect.
All right, we can regulate as much as we like. And in fact, I remember from the time I was a child to now, it's actually more difficult to buy a pet from a store. So there are new curbs that have been put in place in the last few decades. One imagines you buy a pet because you want to care for it, and yet you've got more than 2,000 cases of abuse, not just abandonment. What's the mindset between a person who buys something in order to abandon or abuse it?
I do think that it is not intentional acts of cruelty towards their pets. If you look at the time frame that this happened between 2022 to 2023 was when a lot of us were returning to our pre-COVID routine. And we also know that many people decided to purchase a pet for companionship during that COVID period. So perhaps it is a case of not acknowledging the lifetime commitment. That's one issue we see. The second is that the cost of pet care, veterinary care, has increased tremendously over the years. So there may also be pet owners who are unable to cope with that cost of care for their animals as well. So in most of these cases, I don't think it was actively wanting to inflict harm on their pets. Unfortunately, not discharging your duties as a pet owner or a caregiver is equally abusive.
So if they were better informed at the point of purchase of the pet, do you think that might cut down on the rate of abuse and abandonment of pets?
Absolutely. I think over the years, the authorities have worked with pet shops to try to offer more education. But as we see through our own surveillance, it is still very basic. There are also many pet shops who recommend pets who are maybe not most suited for our climate, or, tell them that they wouldn't grow too big, or tell them about the medical conditions that they may have in the future. I think that's one issue. The second is we also need to shift our mentality when it comes to animals. It's not just about them feeling physical pain, but they can also feel emotional pain. They have mental needs that also need to be considered.
We see, but a pet shop makes money not just from selling the animal, but from selling all the accessories that it's in their business interest to sell to you. So in a way, telling a pet shop owner to tell a potential buyer, don't buy this because you are not going to be able to afford to care for this, both in terms of mental care and financially being able to care for an animal. That's a little bit of a contradiction. Is that a fair expectation to make of a pet shop owner?
Ultimately, that's also why the SPCA recommends that people adopt instead of purchasing a pet. At the end of the day, once an animal is seen as a commodity or there's a dollar value placed on their lives, it is very, very hard for us to look for good welfare in these situations. We acknowledge there are pet shops who try their best, and do try to give better recommendations in the hopes that they would have word of mouth support from these consumers who are using their services. But as far as possible, we always say that if you love animals, perhaps adoption is a better alternative to purchasing a pet.
So apart from, say, a better information type campaign, are there any moves that you can make as a non-governmental charity to address a concerning development before it becomes an actual trend?
So we have been actively trying to educate the public. In fact, we've also started launching programs for schools and youth because one of the other disturbing occurrences that we saw was almost a double in the number of animal cruelty acts because of young people. Although the number is very, very small, it's about 15 cases, it is very concerning given the fact that there was some intent in some of those acts. For example, we had a young boy who put both his hamsters in a freezer, because they beat him. So there may be ignorance, but there's also
How old was he?
He was below 12. So there may be some level of ignorance there. So we are trying to actively educate, but the reality is that education alone is not effective unless the laws also pose as sufficient deterrence. Thus, we are also on the advocacy front trying to lobby for a review of the Animals and Birds Act. You're right that there are laws there, but I think first they need to be a bit more comprehensive. When you talk about outsourced pet care providers, some of these cases we've seen in the last year of negligence of groomers, trainers even, they need to be held to higher standards because they are to be the experts within the industry. I think the second thing is also, as a non-governmental charity, we are quite limited as much as we are trying to be hands-on on the ground all the time. So we are hoping to have some expanded powers, not to be able to arrest someone, but minimally for us to be able to access a premise and be able to rescue an animal who's in a life or death situation.
All right, final, you've got 40 seconds. I've been doing all the questions, so you give me what you would like to say on this. Just anything you want.
I guess we just appeal to all pet owners to deeply consider the lifelong commitment. I mean, our pets are entirely dependent on us for their care. So if you can't commit to that, that's okay too. You can choose to love animals from afar.
All right, thanks so much for coming in this evening, Ms. Aarthi Sankar from SPCA Singapore. Thank you.